other day said about how thankful he was that he came to hang on that old cross and to give himself for that. And I am most thankful for salvation.
Amen.
But you know, we're in the Christmas season, and I was just reading some about the birth of Christ and everything, and it set me on another path, and I got to thinking about a lot of things. And at different times we focus on different things, or God will reveal different things, or show us different things. But I am thankful for not only that Christ came and died on that cross, but for what he went through, so that he can identify with what I go through, so that when I go through that, he knows exactly what I feel. He knows exactly what is happening with me. He knows what this flesh is like. He knows what this world is like. He knows what it is to suffer. He knows what it is to hunger. He knows all these things, and because he knows these things, he can identify with us. And because he came the way he came, and he came in the flesh and walked through this life, he gave us an example that we can do it. And a lot of time I think, we think, yeah, but he's God. He wasn't God. He was in the flesh. He was a man. He walked it. He laid down his deity. He willingly laid that aside to experience being flesh. He willingly laid that aside to experience being a man. And what he did, we can do. How he did it is how we do it. And as I said, I began to read some of the birth of Christ and things like that, and it led me on a different path. And I'm just going to share a few things with you. I don't know exactly where it'll go or what we'll get into, but I want to begin in the book of Luke in chapter 2. And this is very familiar, especially at Christmas time. It's about the birth of Christ. But it's just a verse or two here I want to focus on. Luke chapter 2, the beginning of it talks about how there went out the decree from Caesar that everybody had to be taxed and everybody had to go to their own city. And Joseph went and Mary went, and she was great with child. And I want to get to verse 6 there then. It says, "And so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn." And that's all I want to read there. But here's the point that I want to make there. As I said, he came and decided to do this in flesh and to come and experience what we have to experience and go through. But what we need to think about, we look at this. We see these everywhere this time of year, and it's nice. And it wasn't so nice. It wasn't. And listen, read in the Bible all the places you can find where we get little glimpses of heaven and descriptions of what heaven was, and he willingly left that to come to this. And probably everybody here has experienced the barn. And that's basically what it was. He was born in a barn. It was dirty, it was filthy, it stunk. There were probably rats and flies and all these things. How many of you were born in a barn? Probably a lot of your moms say when you come in and let the door open, you were born in a barn. But he came to experience what it is. He came to experience how it feels. He came to experience the whole thing about being a human, and to experience what it's like to have bad things happen to you, bad things put upon you. I know a lot of time we think we got it bad, but how many of us were born in a barn? Because they couldn't make room for us anywhere else. He was born in a dirty, filthy barn, wrapped up in rags, and laid in a feed trough. I mean, and I don't know if this makes as much of an impact on you as it does me, but I get a picture of that. We used to have hogs, and them things stunk. And they were dirty, and they were filthy, and their feed trough was dirty because they slobbered in it, and all this stuff, and all that's going on now. They weren't hogs because it was Jews, but sheep stink too. And there were sheep or cows or whatever else was in there. But if you can get a mental image of your child, your baby, think of your newborn when you had that baby, that newborn precious thing, that you had to have him in there, in a barn, maybe beside a manure pile, and lay him in a dirty feed trough and wrap him up in rags. But see, Jesus chose to do that so that he can identify with you, so that he knows how you feel, so that he knows what you go through when nobody wants you, or you don't have the best of everything, or you don't have it as good as you think you should have it. He can still identify. And we need to really stop and think sometimes that we complain and we mumble and we groan about things and this and that, but you stop and think. You think you got it bad. He was born in a barn. And listen, you don't have to turn to all these because I'm going to be jumping around. But in Matthew and chapter 2 and verse 13, it's where the wise men came, and you all know the whole account. And they went to Herod and asked where the baby was, and then they left, and God told them to go another way. And then in verse 13 of chapter 2 it says, and when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, arise and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. And if you jump to verse 16, it says, then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and in all the coasts thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Now listen, here's Christ who left heaven, and I'm not going to keep harping on it. You try to get the image for yourself, or you think about this. He left everything to come and be born in that dirty, filthy, rotten barn, and that dirty, stinking place, and to be wrapped up in rags. And from the moment that he entered this world, they sought his life. Immediately, as a child, as a baby, they sought his life. They wanted to kill him. The ruler of the country, the ruler of that area, who had all that power, sought to kill that child. And we mumble and we grumble and we complain because he don't like me. What do you think it would be like from the time you were born to have somebody who wanted to have your life, who wanted to take your life, who sought to kill you? And I'm saying all this and I'm going through all these because what God has shown me is no matter what I go through, he's experienced that or worse, and he can identify, and because he can, and because he does, he can give me what I need to go through any problem, any situation, any circumstance. When we think we got it bad, I want you to stop and think. He willingly had it bad. He chose to have it bad. And he chose to have it bad in order that he could identify with you, in order that he could understand you, in order that he could give you what you need to make it through this life. And again, I don't know if this makes an impact on you like it does me, but when you start stopping and really thinking about this, we make everything so nice and neat and prim and proper, and it wasn't. And as I was reading this and thinking about this and praying about this, and God was speaking to me, I kept coming back to a song that Jake sings. Which Jesus do you serve? We've got Jesus all prettied up. We've got the manger all prettied up. We've even got the cross all prettied up. You look at pictures of Christ on the cross and stuff. They might have the crown on and a couple of nails or something like that. But he was beaten. He was mutilated. He was unrecognizable. But we want to pretty it all up. But what we need to understand is he did not have a pretty life. He did not have a nice life. He did not have it easy. And what we really need to understand is all of that was for us.
Amen.
So that he could understand. So that he could identify. So that he could strengthen and encourage. And I don't want to put this in the wrong way. Or sound like I'm being flippant or something like that. But because he went through all that, and because he did all that, he can say, I can feel you.
Yes.
You know how some people say, I feel you. I feel your pain. He does. He really does. And we need to remember that in our times of problems or trials or troubles, or when we feel like the world's crashing in on us, he did it. And we can do it. Because he understands, he can give you whatever you need to get through that situation, that circumstance, that problem. I'm going to keep going here. I just throw this in and then I'll move on. Not only did Herod try to kill him, but I'm going to read one place, there's many, but in the book of John in chapter 5 it says, and therefore did the Jews persecute Jesus and sought to slay him because he had done these things on the Sabbath. Therefore the Jews sought the more to kill him. And there's many other places, but just think of that. Because he was doing what was right, because he was doing good, because he was presenting the plan of salvation in a way to God, they wanted to kill him. And we think we got it bad. And we think we just can't handle it and we can't deal with it. And there's no way we can make it through that. Just remember when his problems come, what he went through and what he put up. And I know I said it already probably 10 times, and I'm going to say it probably 10 more. But he did it for you. He did not have to do it. We need to understand, we don't deserve this. We have no right to this. He chose to do it. Not that we were worthy or deserving or that there was any good in us that would cause him to do it. But he chose to do it. And not only did he choose to do that, but all this other stuff, his whole life, so that he could identify with you. In the book of Matthew in chapter 4, and I won't read it, but you know where Jesus was led into the wilderness and where he was tempted of Satan 30 days and 30 nights, or 40 days and 40 nights. They went without eating that whole time and went through all that stuff as a man. Listen, this is what you need to understand. As a man. And we'll go and we'll do something we know we shouldn't do, or we'll say something we know we shouldn't say. We'll act in a way we know we shouldn't act, and the devil made me do it. Jesus showed you can conquer him. Jesus showed you. How many of you have come face to face, toe to toe, person to person with Satan? He took him head on. Once in a while, maybe Satan might come by your way. Most of the time, he don't have to. All he's got to do is whisper in your ear a little something, you know? And we'll fall for that. Jesus took him face to face, head on, in an extremely physically weakened condition. He had gone all that time without food. He had gone all that time without eating. He was physically weak and wore down. And yet he showed you that no matter what, you can defeat Satan. You don't have to give in. You can make it through. And again, he did this to show you that you can do it. He did this to show you that it is possible, because he did it as flesh and blood. He didn't do it as God. He did it as flesh and blood in order that you would know that you can do it too. And it just so burned on my heart after reading these things and just meditating on them and allowing the Spirit to speak to me. Everything he did was for me. You know that? It was a personal thing. This is a personal thing. All that he suffered, all that he dealt with, all that he went through, he did it for me. So now he can identify with everything I'm ever going to deal with, everything I'm going to go through, everything I'm going to face, he can identify with it. I'll jump over here to Luke chapter 9. Jesus, a certain man came up to him, and I read some of this morning. It said, Lord, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest. And Jesus said unto him, foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. He didn't even have a home. He didn't have a house. He didn't have a place to live. And we grumble and mumble and complain if where we live isn't everything we think it ought to be. Isn't, top of the line, top of the mark, if we don't have all the good stuff and all that. But he didn't even have a home. And he did that once again so that he can identify with you. He knows what it feels like to have that problem, to have those issues. He knows what it was like to go through all those things. And he can give you the strength. He can give you the support. He can give you the encouragement. No matter what you come up with, no matter what you're going through, you need to remember, Jesus did it. He showed me I can do it. Jesus did it. He knows what it feels like. He knows what it takes, and he can help me. And we can make it through this thing together. We need to remember all these things. And I'm going to recap some of these before I go on. Whenever you think you're having a hard time, and you think it's going bad, and you think you just can't do it anymore, I want you to remember, he left the splendors of heaven. He left something that I can't even describe to you. Willingly chose to leave it and come down here and be born in a filthy, stinking barn and wrapped up in rags and have his life sought after from the very moment of his birth and up and through when he was trying to reach people, trying to do good for people, trying to deliver people and set them free. They still were trying to kill him. He traveled about and he didn't have a place to live. And I'm sure there are many times that he hungered. We have one account where he was hungry and he went to the fig tree and couldn't get any fruit off of it. And there had to be many, many other times that he hungered. He knows what all that feels like. So when you're going through it, don't think that he don't understand. Don't think that he don't know. And don't think that he can't get you through it. He showed you how to do it. He gave you the example. All you got to do is follow what he did. And you can get through anything that this life can throw at you. You can get through anything that Satan can throw at you. Any problem that's going to rise. Christ has already dealt with it. He has already felt it. He has already experienced it. And because he did, you can too. And as I said, and I'm not going to keep reading a lot of stuff, but I just want you to get a few things. As I said, he went through all that, being born in a barn and have his life sought after. And he had to take on Satan face to face, head on, person to person, in an extremely weakened condition. And still defeated him and showed us that we could do it. He didn't have a home. He went hungry. He was mocked and ridiculed and made fun of and all those things. He was betrayed by one of his friends. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Judas betrayed him. And I want you to get that. If you haven't read it lately, you go over and read it. When Judas came to the garden, you know what Jesus called him? Friend. And he betrayed him with a kiss. He knows what it's like to be treated dirty. He knows what it's like to have somebody stab you in the back. He knows what it's like to have somebody say things about you or do things to you. And we have that in experiences. We have that kind of stuff go on. But look how he handled it. And that's how we can handle it. And he did all this, again, to set the example, to show us, to let you know you can do it. You can do it. And I want to read you a couple more things, and just things that really jumped out at me. This one is the one that really hit me. How many times has God forsaken you? When Jesus was on the cross, you know what he said? My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Think about that. He's never turned his back on you. He's never turned his face from you. He's never forsaken you. But on the cross, Christ cried out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Have you ever felt like God has just left you and forsaken you and doesn't care about you? If you ever felt like that, Jesus knows how that feels. That's how he felt, hanging on that cross. And you know why he chose to do that? So he could feel what you were going to feel. So that he could identify with you. So that he could understand. So that he could give you what you need to deal with those things. There are times, just like Christ, in that situation, we do feel abandoned. We know he never forsook his son. This was all part of the plan. This was all part of what had to happen. This was all part of what it took in order to give us salvation. But at that moment, on that cross, Christ felt like we sometimes feel. Like we've just been left alone. We're just hanging out there. But we can follow this on through. And you can go throughout the entire word. And you know God will never leave you. He will never forsake you. And Jesus promised, I will go with you all the way. Through whatever you got to go through whatever you got to deal with, he will be there. Let me read you this. This we already mentioned a little bit, but I want you to listen to this. This was by choice. This is what we need to get. This is what we need to understand. We read the Bible and we hear these things and they just don't stop in the middle sometimes. We need to stop and understand everything that Christ did, everything that he went through, he chose to do it. And I'm going to read you just a little bit of this in Matthew. It says, and they stripped him